From the back pew, a typical church service looks remarkably ordinary. You walk in, find a seat, stand up when everyone else stands, and listen to a few songs. It appears to be a standard community gathering. People take turns reading from ancient texts, and eventually the congregation shares a symbolic piece of bread to honor a historical figure who lived 2,000 years ago. But Catholic dogma makes a specific claim about the mechanics of the soul. Look at this equation. Attending Mass a single time while you are alive is said to offer more benefit than hundreds of prayers offered for you after death. We have a ritual performed locally, thousands of times a day, by flawed human beings. Yet the Church teaches this single hour generates infinite spiritual value. The math only works if we look past a local memorial. It suggests that this ritual is doing something to the linear flow of time. The entire ritual hinges on a single command from the Gospel of Luke: "Do this in remembrance of me." In English, that sounds like a prompt to recall a fond memory. But the original Greek text uses the theological term anamnesis. Anamnesis does not mean looking back at the past. It means making a past reality completely present in the here and now. This timeline maps a singular historical event. On the left, we have a definitive moment anchored in 33 AD. Over here on the right is the present day. When anamnesis occurs during the Mass, the timeline folds back on itself. It brings that exact point from 33 AD to overlap perfectly with the present moment on the modern altar. The Catechism confirms this mechanism. The congregation in the pews is not remembering the crucifixion. Because time has folded, they are standing at the actual foot of the cross. By directly bridging 33 AD with our current moment, this 2,000-year-old sacrifice actively distributes real grace today. If the Mass is the exact same historical event as the cross, the person offering the sacrifice cannot be the human priest standing at the altar. The Church teaches that the human priest operates in persona Christi capitis, acting in the person of Christ the head. Look at this loop visualizing the underlying spiritual architecture. Jesus Christ is simultaneously the high priest initiating the offering and the victim being offered. It forms a completely closed divine circuit. Standard human worship involves people offering their own limited prayers to God. The Mass, described in Hebrews as a continual sacrifice of praise, bypasses human limitations entirely. Because the actor and the offering are both divine, the resulting spiritual merit has no limits. It is strictly infinite. We have all sat in a church pew feeling completely detached, distracted by a phone, or just bored. The Church accounts for this human frailty through the principle of ex opere operato. This Latin phrase means the grace flows by the very fact of the actions being performed. Because the Mass is a divine action transcending time, its effectiveness does not require the congregation to feel an emotional high. It doesn't even rely on the personal holiness of the priest at the altar. The objective outpouring of grace is guaranteed solely by Christ's faithfulness to his own covenant. As Paul wrote to Timothy, "If we are unfaithful, he remains faithful, for he cannot deny who he is." The power of the Mass is an objective architectural reality. Our subjective human emotions are secondary to the fact of divine action taking place in the room. This brings us back to the imbalance of our opening equation. We can now see why a single living Mass outweighs hundreds of posthumous prayers. Taking communion, physically consuming the flesh of the risen Christ, requires human agency. It demands an active exertion of the will, which is a choice you can only make while you are alive and breathing. Actively stepping forward to receive this sacrament expands a person's physical and spiritual capacity to hold grace. That active reception shapes the trajectory of their eternal soul. A passive audience member evaluates a service based on how entertaining the music or the sermon was. An active participant understands they are engaging directly with a divine reality. Attending Mass requires you to walk into the intersection of time and eternity. It is where human agency meets an unconditional, infinite outpouring of grace.